The last two UFC fight nights, UFC Vegas 29 last week or 2 weeks ago now, and now UFC Vegas 30. They've both hit, man. They've both hit. These have been some two really, really good cards, and if we're going to have these two going into a bye week, essentially, we'll call it the UFC bye week. I think I'll roll with that. Before UFC 264, man, I cannot be much more happier than this because from the very first fight on this card, things got wild. I swear there's so many knockouts, so many hot starts, so many finishes, and so many submissions. It really just could not catch your breath, and there's too much to recap with this. Blake, how'd you enjoy the fights from this weekend?
I had to get an early start to my day, make some breakfast. I didn't really make breakfast.
Some brunch in UFC.
Who's counting? Who cares? Who's keeping track? But it was great, man. I enjoyed it to get to start watching at 10 a.m. Pacific time and watch people punch each other in the face. You can't really start your day off better.
Oh yeah, it was perfect. I mean, I had work on Saturday, which was dumb, but I got through it. Luckily, it was a 10 to 5 shift. The fight started at 11. It went from 11 to 5, and then I watched pre-fight stuff the first hour of work. So man, they really did fill my day. So shout out to you, UFC. You really do know what you're doing. Unless it comes to knowing what the hell to do with the heavyweight division, because out of nowhere, we get an interim title shot for Cyril Gane with Derek Lewis. So we're going to have to talk about that. And also we're going to talk about a possible title fight between Nate Diaz and Kamar Usman. This and all of UFC Vegas 30. But before we get to that card, just gotta thank our sponsors. Shout out to Thrive Fantasy for all your sports prop betting needs. There is no better place to do it than ThriveFantasy.com. Go download the app on the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store and get started on that today. It's super easy, super simple. They streamline the whole process. And on deposits of $20 and up to $50, they will match you dollar per dollar if you use promo code 4th and long. That's promo code 4th and long. And then really the best way to keep the show going is to go on over, become a patron for 4th and Long. You can go on over to patreon.com/4th and Long, and you can get started today for just $1 a month. I know Blake, I'm trying to pay the man. He's been complaining about his pay for a while now, so this is going to help us out, I'm doing this for you, Blake.
Help me out, guys.
You gotta fund that soccer career he's trying to go for, man. Hat trick on the weekend, I heard.
Yeah, we won't get into it. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
It's not a big deal. It's lightware.
I want to be humble, cocky at the same time. I love it. But where do we start, man? First off, gotta ask the question like we do every week, Blake. Did the bangers hit?
I think that's a rhetorical question. Like I said, unless something crazy happens, unless someone gets a leg chopped off or something, or COVID hits again, the bangers are going to hit. You guys can trust your boy. I have a good feeling of who's going to get in the tussles.
You mean that? If you're going off of this week, you had the good feeling.
Yeah, there you go. Nice. Very nice. Woo! Very nice. 2 points to Ross, 2 points to House of Gryffindor.
Nah, Gryffindor's done, man. Slytherin gang.
Oh, well, I'm Gryffindor all the way, so it's...
Hey, we the baddies.
No big deal.
We the baddies.
You just the Malfoys. That's trash.
Oh, man.
Anyway, we digress.
We digress, man.
The bangers definitely hit. Short answer. Yes.
I mean, between Tim Means, Nicholas Stalvey,
Andre Feely, and Daniel Pineda.
Well, no, for the 5 minutes and 20 seconds at that.
He was a really good punching bag,
yeah,
bro.
Right.
He got hit really well. It made it entertaining. So shout out Daniel Pineda.
It was an exciting fight. I'll give you that much. And also,
sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. He was the nail.
Man, so was OSP, man.
All respect.
Tanner Bozer put him down, and that was a really fun, a little bit controversial fight. We'll get to that in a number of minutes. But I feel like we're not going to go all the way into and breaking down every card that was on, or every fight that was on the prelims, because honestly, I don't know if you guys want to talk about prelims for 2 hours, because we totally can with this card, but we're not going to do that. There's some other stuff to focus on, but I have to mention at least most of these, if not all these fights on the prelims because they deserve that. But we're going to delve into a little deeper a handful of them. Starting off, this course, I'm surprised that this didn't get fight of the night. It was a really solid contender that ended up going to Timur Valiev and Rony Barcelos on the main card. But we started off with the banging Yancy Meridos and Damir Hadzovic. And man, both these guys threw the hell down, and they did not take a break because there's 456 total significant strikes thrown in this fight, and 224 of those landed. So we saw action, and we saw action for 15 straight minutes.
Yeah, I mean, this was an awesome fight. Start to finish, both guys had their moments. I mean, Hadzovic probably had, obviously, the better of the 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, Yancy Medeiros, what kind of granite chin does that guy have? I mean, goodness gracious.
Shots, man.
It's crazy. And from the first minute, too, I mean, he was taking shots all the way deep into the third round. And that's honestly where he almost started taking over the fight, was in the third round. So props to Yancy for staying in there and making it such an entertaining fight. And also props to Hadzovic for really putting it on him and keeping the gas pedal pretty much to the floor for almost the whole match.
I mean, what more could you ask for as the first fight on the card? You know, Dana had to be really happy about that.
First fight at 10 a.m., man, and you get it started like that, just get it cracking.
Right, I mean, these dudes were in Vegas time. These guys were fighting at 10 a.m. in the morning.
Yep.
Hey, they're up and ready for it, okay?
But you know what? The production crew is making a good point, Paul Felder and all them.
Oh, with the training times.
That is the perfect time for their bodies probably to be at peak performance because, like they said, most routines, you're getting your breakfast in the morning, your coffee, whatever, what you may have, and then you go into a hard train. So, I mean, I feel like it kind of replicates that, whereas when you're fighting on a normal, fight night, unless you're in Abu Dhabi, of course, you're probably fighting in the evening time, which is a little bit, it's prime time, but maybe not for your body necessarily.
Exactly. And then if Paul Felder says it, it's fact. I'm not going to question that, man. I'm not questioning the Irish Dragon because you're probably in the wrong if you try to question that, man. But the next fight we're going to get into was the second one on the card, and this was a really exciting fight. Unfortunately, it didn't go the way that at least Blake and I wanted to, and so did a lot of the MMA world, because the day before that this fight goes down, we figured out that Justin Jaynes bets his entire fight purse on himself. Although it didn't work out, I love the move, and I'm honestly surprised that some of the guys haven't really done this more, is betting on themselves like this. I love the confidence it showed from him and his coaches, and he was in this fight and had 3, 4, 5 moments where I thought he was either going to get the knockout, going to get the finish. It just ultimately didn't happen. It happened, at least in decision, on one of the judges' scorecards with 29-28. But he falls just short in this fight against the more veteran fighter in Charles Rosa. So what do you think about this fight, and what do you think about the decision to bet on himself?
It was such a close fight. I do think Charles got the win just by a hair. Even though Justin kind of looked like he looked like the more dangerous fighter on the feet for sure, but it just seemed like Rosa was more of the all-around, like you said, veteran, savvy, knew how to win the position battles, knew how to sustain that pressure on Justin. And unfortunately, he didn't get the decision. But props to Charles. He fought a smart fight. He weathered the storm. I mean, especially in the third round, it really looked like that Leon Edwards moment,
right,
with Nate Diaz, where he stalked and slapped him and knocked him silly. But unfortunately, Justin didn't get the finish there. In terms of the decision for him betting his show money on himself, I mean, it's his money. He can do whatever he wants with it. Personally, I don't know if I would take that risk, man. I'm very frugal with my money, and I like guaranteeing that I'm at least gonna have a portion of it.
Especially when it's UFC, and it's really not that much in terms of what the company's making. Dana.
But I mean, on that note, I can't explain to you how much I respect. Like I wanted to tweet this, but I couldn't figure out the right words. I saw it on Twitter. This dude was I don't know if any of you guys are South Park fans out there, but Randy Marsh's when you got the the testicular cancer and he's walking around town with the wheelbarrow.
Yes.
That basically is how I think of Justin Jaynes, is
right.
like just wheelbarrow nutsacking it, man. Like he's built different, man. He's a different breed.
Certainly is.
Hats off to him for having that much faith in himself. I really do love his sentiment. I think more people need to believe in themselves just like he did to that, to that extent. Because I mean, why not? You only live once, and you get just a couple chances probably to really prove that you're at the pinnacle of what you're trying to perform in. And he put it all out there, left it all on the line. Didn't work for him, but for I'm thinking we didn't hear the last of him yet.
I think there's a good chance that we haven't, honestly, because yes, he's now 1-4 in the UFC. He's on a 4-fight losing streak, but if you look at that, before this fight, 3 of those, I mean, all of his previous 4 fights were on short notice. So you have 3 losses that were all on short notice. One was in a different weight class, and then one was due to a doctor stoppage. So, I mean, we've seen this before. I can't name specific names, but we've seen it before where there's some guys that they take losses, but there have been short notice fights, so almost like is a thank you for the UFC for filling in. They are a little more lenient on them, So I might just be hopefully optimistic on this, but I think there's a good chance that he still stays in the promotion at least for one more fight. Because at the least, this was a extremely entertaining fight that he was in on.
I was gonna say the thing is that's different with a lot of guys that get cut on losing streaks and stuff like that. Is this guy is still arguably in the prime of his career, and he's still putting out good performances. He's not getting beat, completely handily, minus the doctor stoppage maybe, and even that fight he had a couple good moments.
Yeah.
He's not getting smoked out there.
No.
I mean, is he the most physically imposing human being in that division? Probably not, but the dude is a savage, and he works really hard. You can tell. I mean, the dude looks shredded coming into this weekend.
Oh, man,
he hits like a tank.
Hey, man, Justin, you're a good-looking dude, okay?
he had a little 6-pack on him this weekend, man. I was
right?
like, damn, for sure.
And he has a good mix between bald and beard, though. He rocks it. Looks good.
Oh, man. But yeah, man, I really do hope that we see him for at least one more fight, man. You could give him one more full camp, another fight, see what he can put out there. Because he's not putting on bad fights.
No, he has not had a bad fight. I mean, if you look at it, he gets a 40-second win in his UFC debut, knocks Frank Kamar out on his feet. His next fight, he goes in and he catches a really well-placed knee to the sternum that would shut down anyone's body. Then he goes in... that might have been his 3rd fight in the UFC, but he was close in both of those fights, and then he gets a doctor stoppage, and now he barely loses a split decision, You can make the case for this easily. Will it happen? I'm not sure. I'm not Dana White. I'm not Sean Shelby. I'm not anyone in the UFC. Should it happen? And do I hope it will happen? Yes. Yes, hands down. I think the man deserves it. And quite frankly, he deserves a lot more people's respect for this, because there's, understandably, the MMA community is fickle. You want to put it that way. They love you 1 second, they hate you the next. There's so many people shouting praises to this guy before his fight, but after he loses, now everyone's bagging on him and saying all this kind of talking a bunch of crap. When we all know that these people won't have the balls to
never, bro.
To
They'll never experience
like this,
what Justin Jaynes went through this weekend, and that's badass. I mean, it's so easy to shit on this guy.
It's so easy.
No one can put themselves in that situation to where he had all of that on the line. And like I said, I have nothing but respect for the guy.
Yes.
Don't want to sound too fanboy, but really, I mean, it was awesome. And even though he didn't get the decision, I still respect him a ton.
And if you know what this guy's been through and what his journey to the UFC has been like, you'd have a lot more respect for him too. And not to shamelessly plug it, but you can listen to his story about that in a couple of our interviews with him. We had one a while back ago after his debut win last summer. Had that on. Also, Blake and I had a great conversation with him before. I believe it was his 3rd fight in the UFC with him in his hotel room. So that was a great conversation. A lot of really fun stories that's come from him. So I really would recommend on checking that out. Of course, let's run through these next number of prelim fights then. Julia Avila and Julia Storlienko. I probably butchered that, but
Yulia Juliarenko and Julia Avila.
Avila. Man, I am sorry. I am pulling a fat Chael Sonnen at this one, but Avila, she gets a really solid rear naked choke. It's one of those ones where her opponent was bloody, so she was squeezing the life out of her. She choked her out cold, and she was also making some extra blood coming out of that face. That thing was brutal. And this was a really good fight. It was a close fight, and she did this in the last minute of it, so fantastic performance there from her, especially with what she's been through recently.
Yep, and I thought it was a great performance. I know she lost a decision to. I'm talking about Avila.
Yeah.
I know she lost a decision to Sajara Eubanks recently, but I mean, besides that, she looks like she could be a contender possibly. I mean, she really does look like she could be up in that top 5, top 7 range really soon.
Man, that'd be great to see. I mean, in any women's division, just fingers crossed that we get a number of contenders because you can never have too many of them, I swear. Then we got some heavyweights in Marcin Prachnio and Ike Villanueva. And man, Marcin lands one of the sickest body kicks early in the second that I've seen. And that sounded like a whip. And I'm not surprised that Villanueva crumpled the way he did. That fight was over as soon as that kick landed.
Yes, sir. It was beautiful, though.
Oh, I mean, that the top of the foot just kind of wrapped around the body perfectly in just a perfect liver shot. You really can't place that one much better. Then we also had Jeremiah Wells against Borley Elves, and Wells just rushes him 30 seconds into the second and gets a really nice KO in his UFC debut after landing a sick right hook. So, I mean, debut knockouts in a fairly quick fight. You really can't ask for more than that one. Then one of the other ones I would like to focus on is this beast, Shavkat Rachmanov, as he pieces up and just absolutely outclasses Michel Prazeres. I'm sorry. Prazeres.
That's a hard
Prazeres.
one. Yeah, we'll say Prazeres. That's pretty.
No, it is Prazeres. So I am obviously not on my game in the pronunciation. So I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm not at we're not the Chael Sonnen kind of level where we can get away with it. Shoot, real quick tangent, Blake. We all listen to Chael Sonnen's YouTube videos, right? When he mispronounces names, I swear he'll mispronounce it like three. He'll pronounce it like 3 different ways within 3 minutes of the video. Do you think he does it on purpose? Is that just a part of his gimmick now?
Maybe if it's been pointed out to him.
Oh, come on, look at the comments. It's always getting pointed out to him.
It's not as bad as Brennan Schaub, though. I mean, Brennan Schaub's he's the absolute worst. I don't know if that's on purpose, man. That's bad.
Both those guys. I mean, Chael could get away with it a little bit more than Brendan Schaub just because Chael's a little more of a legend. But Schaub does sound comedic, at least when he does it. So maybe we can give him he says I'll put in quotes for all of you, comedian. So maybe he does it for a little bit of a comedic effect. But, tangent over. But Rachmanov, this guy has had 2 fights in the UFC. He's on 2-0. He's 14-0 in his career. He looked absolutely dominant again in this fight. He gets a rear naked choke about halfway through the second. And I really think, man, with some of these guys, you just got to pull the trigger on them. Give Rachmanov a ranked opponent at 170 pounds and see what this guy can do.
Give him Hamzat.
Give him
Why not?
That's a good fight. The problem is that
both undefeated.
Both undefeated. I guess the only I would like to see that fight. I just don't think it would happen because Rachmanov isn't even ranked yet. So I feel like
it'd be a lot to lose for Hamzat. He's probably looking, but it's
at least top 10.
We won't go into it. We won't go.
Well, let's get Hamzat to actually get back into the octagon before we talk about giving him another fight. Maybe someone like Sean Brady or the Leech. Some of those kind of guys between 12 and 15.
Yeah. I'd be down. Either
Right.
one of those.
Right.
Anyone in the top 10 to 15.
Yeah.
Like top number 10 to 15.
Yes. But
No one above that.
I'm sold on this
Anyone
guy though,
below
man.
that.
He looks dangerous. He looks like a lanky Khabib.
You talking about Shavkat?
Rachmaninoff. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, dude, he looks like a problem.
Right. If you're a contender in this 170-pound division, you should have your eyes on this guy because he's going to be a problem. Whether it's this year or next year, he's going to be climbing his way up the rankings.
Takedowns, 1 of 1, submission attempts, 1, wins by submission. I mean, yeah, he's elite for sure. I'm excited to see his next fight.
Yeah, I would love to see a step up in talent to really see what this guy can do. And then, of course, the last fight on the prelims was Daniel Marquez against Kennedy Nechukwu.
Snooze fest until the very last second, basically. My goodness.
You're kind of
This
on.
fight,
Yeah, you're right.
I think this fight put me to sleep 3 different times during its entirety.
Wait, take
and
your
then
early morning nap already?
Dude, and all of a sudden, Kennedy knocks his ass out. So, I mean, props to dude. But that was really tough. I mean, 2 out of 12 takedowns for Danilo Marquez. It was just not pretty to watch.
No, that's shout out to Kennedy's takedown defense at least. Let's give him some compliments there.
He did pretty well.
But now Kennedy, he's won his last 3 fights. He's now 3-1 in the UFC. He's a former Dana White Contender Series fighter, and his first loss and his only loss in the promotion really isn't that bad because
Paul Craig.
Yeah,
He'll get you.
right?
And how did he beat him?
Triangle.
Yeah, I was going to say, dude. Submitted.
That's so tough. Your first fight on the
Specialist.
UFC is a guy that's so damn good on the ground that he pulls guard. Okay,
Yep.
Who the hell pulls guard? But I was looking through his previous fights and I was like, oh really? They did that for his first fight? That's a little messed up.
He's on a 2 KO streak right now, though, Kennedy. So, I mean,
Hey,
looking pretty good.
right? Sky's the limit for this guy because he looked good in the Dana White Contender Series. Obviously, he just has that one kind of bad spot on his UFC resume, which really isn't that bad of a loss if you actually look at
Not bad.
the guy he lost to and the way he lost to. A young, inexperienced, or a younger fighter gets caught in a submission by one of the best submission artists in the promotion.
And he just did it again.
Right? Just did it again. And I'm really not surprised by that one. But let's get crack-a-lacking on into the main card because we started off with some heat, of course, because we had Renaldo Muy Cano against Jai Herbert. And we kind of have a bit of a grappling clinic put on by Muy Cano. He locks in a rear naked choke. I mean, this card of rear naked chokes if you're going to submit someone. Locks in round 2, and he now moves to 2-1 in the lightweight division. Of course, he has a lot of fights and a lot of time in the featherweight division. His last fight was against the Korean Zombie a number of years ago, but he's looking good and just another guy in this really, really stacked 155-pound division.
And, you know, speaking of that, Hadzovic, Muy Cano is actually a guy that submitted him last year in March of 2020. So almost a little over a year ago. So just interesting since they fought on the same card this last weekend. But, man, like you said, Muy Cano, his grappling game, superb. Flawless, basically. And also his striking looked pretty damn good as well. And his striking has always been good.
Yeah.
He actually said that he fell in love with boxing more and he got away from his jiu-jitsu and his ground game. And so the fact that he's going back to that where he kind of started just shows how dangerous the guy is, man. He can finish you anywhere, up top, down below, doesn't matter. He's really putting it together. Right. I mean, he could be a Charles Oliveira type dark horse.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking about that when I was doing my show notes. I didn't know if I wanted to be bold enough to actually say that, but Blake, man. Yeah, I really do think you're
I mean, he looked the part. He's fought the who's who already, and I mean, he looks like he's only getting better.
Yeah, and he looks good at this newer weight class. You know, I feel like he might be able to contend a little better at this 155-pound division than he could at the 145. So some guys just do better at different weight classes. It looks like this might be a success for him. But the next fight, too, well, first Blake's bangers of the night, Tim Means and Nicholas Dalby. And, I mean, what way was this going to go? This was a slugfest of slugfest, a really close fight. Means gets a nod 29-28 by the judges after he won the first 2 rounds. Then Dalby took the third. But, man, this was such a damn good fight. And I really don't know what to say besides you would have to watch it.
Yeah, no, it was a great fight, man. Yeah, not really too much else to say about it. I mean, both guys had their moments. I'm actually surprised with how hard Dalby was breathing that whole freaking fight, and then he ends up winning the final round. Make it make sense. But yeah, both guys showed tons of heart, tons of grit out there, and no quit.
No, that was just another fight on the long list of really good ones on this evening. The next one was still a banger. It did bang for the 5 minutes, 20 seconds that it went on. But man, here we go, Blake. We get another card and we get another no contest due to an accidental eye poke after Andre Touchy-Feely was piecing this guy, Daniel Pineda, up left and right for 5 straight minutes. This is probably one of the best that we've ever seen Feely looking like in a fight. And then, you know, his hand slips off his shoulder, and with these crappy UFC gloves that they don't want to fix because Dana White's a greedy son of a bitch and doesn't want to give Trevor Whitman the money and kind of respect that he owns for his really, really good UFC or MMA gloves, his invention on that one. So we get this, but Feely still hands down deserves a step up in competition because he was murdering this guy. And shout out to, at least Daniel Pineda. I thought he was about to try maybe take an easy way out for a second, but no, he wanted to keep fighting. So I got nothing bad to say to this guy. You know, he's a professional, and it was just out of his control. But Andre Feely, he looked fantastic.
Dude, he looked killer. I mean, there was this one exchange where he hit him with like 2 head kicks basically in a row, damn near.
Right.
Like hit him with the head kick, hit him with the punch, and then hit him like he was ducking, and then hit him with like another head kick that landed on his with the shin.
That's insane level striking.
Pineda just ate every single one of those. I was like, what the heck? And then he also got Pineda. Remember when he knocked him down, and then he followed him with a punch.
Yes.
And that punch landed so freaking hard. I could not believe that it didn't put his lights out in the first round. And the second round was going just the same. So I think Feely would have got a really impressive finish. He definitely would have got a bonus. So, I mean, it really sucks that he got, you know, from 3 checks to 1 check just because when he was trying to frame, his hand slipped off a little bit and went into his eye. I mean, you can't help it. It's not like he was even trying to gauge distance and, you know, like some guys go out there and stick their fingers out. He was really
John
just
Jones.
framing.
No, he wasn't pulling John Jones on that one. He wasn't pulling Daniel Cormier on that one. His hand slipped.
So, yeah, just the most unfortunate of circumstances. And like you said, Daniel Pineda, a true warrior. Me and you were kind of going back and forth like, oh, he better not.
I was worried for a second.
Aljamain.
I was worried for a second, but then,
yeah. Because, you know, a lot of people recently have been just looking for ways out, it looks like. So I was glad to see that he was still ready to go in there and fight. He earned my respect big time. Feely looked phenomenal. Like you said, deserves either an immediate rematch whenever Pineda's healed up just so he could put on a performance and get those 3 checks like he deserves.
Yep.
Or he deserves to step up in competition and get him someone that's going to put on a fight with him. Don't give him a wrestler. Don't give him no weirdos. Give him a guy that's going to go in there and fight him because, I mean, Feely is fireworks.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to Pineda, too, for trying to guess the number of fingers that the doctor was holding.
I know. That was rough.
I respect
that,
though. I respect that. But let's take a look at a couple of guys that might be next for Andre Feely. At this point, it might be tough to argue a fight in the top 15, just yet, getting back in there. Although I wouldn't be opposed to it. There's a couple of guys that I would like to see him fight more. Maybe I'm not as sold on this fight as I'm the other one, but a guy closer in the rankings where he is Hakeem Dawodu. Or my preferred fight right now would be Andre Feely versus Cub Swanson.
I would say if we want to give him a top 15, Let's give him Shane Burgos.
Oh.
You know what I mean, bro?
Oh, wouldn't that be a fight?
That would be. Oh my god.
That's scary. That's fight of the night. That's fight of the night. That's fight of the year.
I think that would be a fight that would be killer.
Do you think we have a better chance of getting Do you think he gets a top 15 fight after this? Or would something like Cub Swanson be like Cub Swanson, like right next to Andre Fili, just like those verge top 15 or the like kind of about top 15, not quite guys?
Cub Swanson's not in the top 15 anymore. That's crazy.
Right? Alex Caceres is right there. So
that's so wild. Yeah, a Cub Swanson fight wouldn't be bad either. I'm surprised they haven't fought yet.
Right. So, I mean, there's a couple of different ways you can go with this one. I would be a fan, but of course, would love to see what you guys have to say about this potential fight. Going on into the third to last fight on the card was a fight at 135, and there was Timur Valiev against Renoy Barcelos, and Valiev looked great in his first fight at 135 pounds in the UFC. This was his third fight in the promotion, and he was previously a featherweight guy. He made the weight cut. He drops to 135, and if you look at it, I think that might be a smart decision because he looked great in this fight. Then, I mean, that top of that 145-pound division is so damn stacked and so damn deep that he might have a better chance of climbing to the title maybe a little quicker in this 135-pound division.
Maybe.
Maybe? Maybe?
He definitely looked better at bantamweight, I think. But I don't know, to say that he's going to...
I feel like the title path is easier in the bantamweights than the featherweights at this point. Maybe quicker? Would quicker be better to say?
I don't think so, man, because the bantamweights are tied up as hell right now. I mean, you still don't know what's going on with Aljo and Piotr. And then you have the number one contender fight already happening, Corey and TJ. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's already 2 fights away, right? You got the champions fighting Holloway and Ortega in featherweight. And you got... I guess the number one contender fight kind of got scrapped for now. So, I mean...
Well, also, Valiev, he's not a guy, like, in the rankings, so it would be a little bit more of a process for the bout, so I don't know if he has to worry about something, like, in the immediate happening.
Yeah, I mean, for his size, I'd rather see him compete at bantamweight, I think.
Physically, he'll look better.
I think he'd run into a little bit of, problems in featherweight division, just if he got the, unfavorable matchups. Mm-hmm. Bantamweight is, I feel like, a little bit more his... I feel like it's just his weight class, man. He could push himself to get to that weight. It looked like it didn't affect him at all. Put on a great performance. Mm-hmm. Beat a really good Barcelos guy wasn't he favored?
I believe so.
I want to say he was favored, but
I believe so.
Yeah, I mean, and Valiev, I want to say in his post-fight press conference, he said he's fought in 3 weight classes already, right?
At least, like in his career, yeah. In the UFC, he's been at 145 and 135, I believe. So this guy could be a bit of a force. But what's nice is that on this card, big time heavyweight kind of spotlight on this one. The last 2 fights in the co-main and the main event were both in the 100 or the 225 to 65 pound. I guess technically just 265 pounds. Yeah, still so weird that a weight class, like one weight class, covers essentially 60 pounds between 205 and 265. But it's worked so far. But Tanner Boser versus Ofen St. Peru. OSP making a jump in short notice. He was supposed to be fighting in light heavyweight. He now fights at heavyweight. And although it was great for him, he looked good in this fight for a little bit. There was, after a little bit of controversy, where it appeared on like initial glance, it looked like Tanner Boser grabbed the cage to pull himself up off the ground. It was just him using his knuckles. So There's so many people arguing about this on Twitter after this happened. Just real quick before I get into the rest of the fight, was this a cage grab, or can you not climb a cage with just your knuckles?
I thought it was if you don't interlock the fingers through the cage. You know, like if your fingers aren't like, here's the cage hole, right?
Yeah.
If your fingers aren't going here, what's the better way? Yeah, like this, you know. I think you're good.
Well, that's what I was saying, because we've always seen guys like press their hands.
If you're pushing
cage,
on it,
you know?
I don't think that if there's any way, if your knuckles are going into that hole, yes, I think that might be a little bit of a foul. But I mean, you know, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Right. But also just think about it. If your knuckles, so like say you're just using like the little bit of the angle on there, are you really going to be able to hold yourself up that enough to make a difference?
If it does make a difference, then it is, you know, a little bit of cheating, I think. But I don't know. I don't think it was egregious.
No. And Jason Herzog was kind of in a tough position with that one too.
Yeah.
You know, not the best to be in, but nonetheless, Tanner Boser gets a giant knockdown, you know, or a knockout, lands a big knee, just starts slinging some haymakers at OSB's head, and he gets the ref to pull him off. And he's now 4-3 in the UFC since debuting in October of 2019. He has 3 losses, and they are not bad losses at all. His most recent one was 3 weeks ago against Latifi, and that was a very questionable decision in my opinion. I actually thought Tanner Boser won that fight. Then the fight before that was against a really damn good veteran in Andrei Arlovsky, and then his first loss in the UFC was against Cyril Gane. So I'm not really going to hold that against him, considering where the hell Gane is in the promotional standings at this point. But what do you think about this fight, and do you think Boser deserves a top 15 fighter after this?
What I think of the fight is the easier question to answer. I thought it was pretty good. Thought Boser looked pretty sharp. He was putting it on him in the first round. I didn't understand why OSP, and he's kind of done this in his past few fights. He's just so relaxed and almost, I don't know. It's like he's waiting out there for something. You know, like he's just not. I feel like he should be going a little harder at the beginning, because he's just kind of getting pieced up. Look at the Jamal Hill fight. Look at Tanner Boser. He's taken a lot of damage very early. But all credit due to Tanner Boser for getting that finish. Like we said, don't think the fence grab was really an issue. I think Boser would have got that W regardless. It looked like a bad night for OSP. As for a top 15 opponent, I think so. I think he deserves a little bit of a shot, maybe. I mean, he beat a guy with a decently big name, even though he's not naturally a heavyweight.
He's still a title challenger in his career, you know. That holds some weight to it.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm saying big name. Yeah. So, why not?
What I kind of like is a guy that actually won last weekend at UFC Vegas 29, Sergey Spivak. Maybe pair them up together. Spivak just broke into the rankings. He's now at number 14. And so I really don't think that'd be a bad matchup. Or if you want to give him a guy that's kind of been on the decline in Blagoy Ivanov, who currently sits number 13, I think either of those matchups would be pretty solid for Tanner Boser at this point.
Sure. Yeah, all those guys down there at the you know, besides Tom Aspinall and Walt Harris, I really couldn't tell you too much about them. I mean, I've watched their fights, but they're just not entertaining. You know what I mean? Like, they're just.
Well, Ivanov is mostly known for being called or for Derek Lewis saying he got booty hole in his chest. You remember that? Was that like a year or so ago now at this point? That fight must have been a little bit.
What'd you say about a booty hole in the chest?
Oh, that's you know how Blagoy Ivanov got stabbed, so he has kind of like that divot in his chest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Derek Lewis called that booty hole.
Good old Derek Lewis.
Of course, right?
Yeah, he is not PC.
He's really just quite the opposite. So what better way to talk? I mean, if we're going to talk about Derek Lewis, let's go ahead into his last fight so we can get to talking about Derek Lewis a little bit more. Because, of course, the main event was Ciryl Gane against Alexander Volkov. And Gane just works all over the Russian for 5 rounds as he dominates in consecutive fights. Just another 50-45 one like he had against Rosenstruik. But it was a little different from that fight because he looked just as dominant, but he looked a little more aggressive out there, kind of like he'd heard the complaints from the fans for the last fight looking boring. He did not look boring here. He was piecing out Volkov. And he now moves to 6-0 in the UFC, and he becomes the 5th heavyweight in UFC history to start their UFC career at 6-0. The 4 others were Randy Couture, Cain Velasquez, JDS, and Francis Ngannou. And if you've noticed the pattern in those 4 names, they've all been UFC heavyweight champions. So Gane, man, that's elite company to be in. So there's a chance now that he might be able to chase that gold, especially with what just happened. But what do you think about this fight?
I thought Gane put on a really good performance. He stayed out of harm's way for the most part. Like you said, he showed.
Yeah, that's a great point. He had a shorter reach, but it looked like that he was spacing the fight way better than Volkov could.
He was keeping distance well, keeping him at the end of his punches, hitting him with flurries, and connecting. I mean, he was connecting on a lot of his punches. So just a great performance all around by Gane. And the biggest point to this performance, with me at least, was how much more aggressive he was. I mean, it was such a more entertaining fight to watch. It really doesn't compare to that Rosenstruik fight. I mean, yes, he got that W, but I didn't walk away from that fight very impressed. I was like, okay, cool, he won, decision fighter, awesome. This was a comfortable win, I would say, and comfortable in the sense where like he put in a lot of work during this fight. I mean, he didn't stop going to work the whole time the clock was running. So, love to see it. Excited for this interim title fight that's coming up next.
Right. Before I get to that, though, let's talk about what might be next for Volkov, because, of course, he's on a small bit of a streak, if you want to say. He hasn't looked great in his last number of fights. He's been dropping a little bit. He is 2-2 in his last 4 losses to Curtis Blade and Ciryl Gane, and so those aren't bad losses to take. But his only couple wins in this stretch, I mean, since 2019, his only wins have come from Greg Hardy, Walt Harris, who's of course unfortunately on that losing streak, and Alistair Overeem, who, I mean, to be fair, Volkov knocked the hell out of him back in February and sent that man packing out of the UFC. But he's been fighting some good fighters, so maybe he looks like a guy that still might be able to be at the top of this division. So I say maybe you could put him against a guy that Gane just beat before him, like put him up against a Rosenstruik, or put him up maybe against a little more of a up-and-comer in Marcin Tybura. Maybe one of those fights might be able to re-spark something in him, or one of his opponents, of Rosenstruik or Tybura, or would be able to prove something and get a solid rub off of fighting a guy like Volkov.
Yeah, I like both those fights, either one.
Hey, Sean Shelby didn't hit me up because, Blake can give me the recommendation. Okay, so that's really all I need, right? Because your word's everything.
You know it, boy. I'd probably prefer that Rosenstruik fight, though. That sounds like a good fight. I'd be interested to see if Rosenstruik could get that, knockout like Derek Lewis did, or if Volkov just pieces him up, uses that, length and reach.
Both would be interesting fights, definitely. And then, so Ciryl Gane has the next fight, and it's an interesting fight. It's one of these matchups where it's a good fight. It's a fight I want to see, but it's just a really weird matchup, It's one that I was not expecting this. Earlier on Monday, we get the news that breaks that Ciryl Gane is going to be fighting Derek Lewis for the interim heavyweight title. And this is news that really hit me off guard because I was not expecting this. It hit me like how Derek Lewis hit Alexander Volkov back at the McGregor versus... what was that? Was that 229? McGregor versus Habib?
Ooh, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Ooh, let's see if I'm able to get this right. Yes, UFC 229. Oh, I am on it, Blake. That's good stuff right there. But This is such a weird thing to do because in a vacuum, this fight makes sense. You know, putting two top contenders against each other, essentially for a interim belt is for the number one contender essentially. So putting the two top guys like this for the chance at the heavyweight title, this does make sense, but it's just so weird because the whole reason why is because Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis, I mean, they've been going through these negotiations for a while now. Dana White has won this fight in August at UFC 265. Francis Ngannou and his camp have said, no, give us one more month in September. Literally, just 1 month later, he only won this belt about 3 months ago. And we've seen the heavyweight division be on hold we've seen the belt get defended once a year for like the last few years. And so this seems like such a rushed decision and really doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, it definitely caught me off guard.
This is one of the last fights I was expecting, you know?
Is it the right decision? I don't know. I don't know if I'm the right person to ask for that. But is it an interesting decision? Yeah, I think so. I'm still intrigued in that fight. Like Gane versus Lewis. That's going to be a good fight, I think, as long as Gane doesn't fight him like Rosenstruik. But it's the main thing is it sucks for the Black Beast because I would have loved to see him get that rematch against Ngannou. But I mean,
no, not a rematch, Blake. That's the first time they would have ever fought. Okay,
I'm sorry. I forgot that never happened. But if anything, I mean, if he does get this win against Gane, it just gets him another check. So I think it's a great test for Gane because I really do think if Gane sat out and just got the winner of or had to wait for the Jones versus Ngannou fight even after that, I still think that would have been too soon for him. He's not really. I would love
to see Gane get one more win. So that's why I was thinking
exactly.
Him and
so I think it's great.
Made a lot of sense.
I guess, yeah, but right, like I was telling you before we started, if you're doing business with Dana and you're talking numbers and you're hardball. Trying to go, if you're trying to play hardball, he will play stoneball with you. You will play. What is the hardest thing in the world? I don't know. Diamond, I guess. Diamond ball.
He'll play Dustin Poirier ball.
Yeah. Good luck with those negotiations, dog.
That's really all I gotta say. I this is a great fight though because Gane has gone up against good guys, veteran guys, but no one that could really hit like Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis, a knockout artist, you know, to the definition, the most knockouts in heavyweight history, tied for the most knockouts in UFC history. So this is a huge test for Gane. And like early thoughts about this matchup. Who do you think has like maybe the edge?
I think obviously Gane's probably going to be the favorite. You know, just by looking at the physical, you know, the physical attributes and speed and just all that kind of jazz. But mentality and just dog, you know, mentality. Like, I think Lewis is going to have that advantage. I think he's going to, as long as he comes in and has confidence in his hands, there's always going to be that shot for him. Always. And it's heavyweight. The longer it goes, he's proven like it doesn't matter. He can knock you out in any round.
Whether it be against Volkov or whether it be a knockout that looked like it murdered Curtis Blades. So that's a scary guy going against.
Coming in on a shot
is taking place in Houston, Derek Lewis's hometown. So man, the roof of the Toyota Center is going to burst when Derek Lewis makes his walkout. Imagine the noise, Blake, if Derek Lewis lands a KO in this fight.
It'd be insane. It's gonna be an interesting environment for Gane to have to go into for sure.
It's never been anything like this. I mean, he's been pretty much on UFC Vegas cards,
and he's gonna be, you know, a guy from another country, so it's gonna be very heavily favoring Derek Lewis, obviously. Well,
it's a hometown. The USA chants are going to be insane too. Everything is going to be roaring. So I'm not counting Gane out. I'm sure it's going to be a really competitive fight, but there are these factors that are going to go against him. You know, it's just.
But if he wins this fight, I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for him being the next title shot. Like, just sign me up. Like that, he especially if he wins in impressive fashion. Like if he dominates Lewis or if he gets a finish, then I am all for it, man. That is awesome.
Yes, if Gane is able to somehow get a knockout on Derek Lewis, then yes, he cements himself as one of the top dogs in the promotion, not just the division, but the promotion. So this fight, although it doesn't make sense in the real world, in the vacuum, it makes plenty of sense. So I could see why they came to the conclusion to do this, but of course we would love to see what your guys' thoughts on this. Is this the right call to make, or is this maybe a little bit rushed for Gane? I guess we'll see, but August is coming up very soon, and so I am super pumped for that. But that's going to do it for UFC Vegas 30. Just one bit of news, and then we're going to roll on, of course, into the Nene of the week, and that is that, we get this interim title shot. Can Nate Diaz get a surprise title shot against Kamar Usman? Because they've been exchanging barbs on Twitter. Obviously, this fight would make the UFC a boatload of money. This would be... they would be printing money if they made this fight. And man, imagine if Nate Diaz actually won. But the word out of the Kamar Usman camp right now is they don't think Covington deserves a title shot yet. They don't think he's proven himself or done enough, beating Tyron Woodley to get another shot at the belt, even though he's more than likely the guy that can give Kamar Usman the hardest test out of the current contenders right now. Of course, waiting to see how Wonderboy and Gilbert and Burns goes, so we're going to have to wait and see about that at UFC 264. But do you think this is like something that actually has a chance of happening, and do you want to see it?
Does it have a chance of happening? Yes. Does it have a big chance of happening? No, I don't think it has a very big chance of happening at all. I think it's just talk. Kamaru's kind of a clown for even, having this discussion, in my opinion. Yeah. It should be the top contenders, not line them up, knock them out. Nate Diaz literally just lost to Leon Edwards. Love the guy. I'm probably one of his biggest fans, but come on, what are we doing here? These are UFC contracts. Nothing else gets written into them. Mm-hmm. You don't get to call the shots around here. And I don't know who him and Ali think he is, but which champion's going out there and calling his shots? Like who? I want to know. Mm-hmm. And Ganu just got an interim title made about it. So if Kamaru thinks this is how he's going to go about, and all respect to that guy, because he has taken a lot of really tough fights lately in a row. Yes. So I love that, but just this Nate Diaz talk needs to stop. He needed to win that in order to deserve that fight, because Kamaru is the champ. He needs to act like it.
Oh, he beat Leon Edwards. Yes, you make this fight yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. But he lost, and he lost rather convincingly. He had one good moment towards the end of the fight. So, no, I don't think there's a good shot of it happening. If it does happen, am I going to complain about it? Absolutely not. So, there you go.
Right.
I just would rather Kamaru not be the one leading this conversation.
Yeah, it's a little weird from him to do that, but of course he's probably going for, if you want to call it, the green panty night, which just doesn't sound okay. But I could see what, right? The best fight that you can make for Nate Diaz is that you keep your fingers crossed that Dustin Poirier wins trilogy, so you can do the trilogy between Diaz and McGregor, because that probably be more hyped than a fight with Kamar Usman at this point. Oh, I want that trilogy, and I want it now. I really do hope that Dustin Poirier. If we're legitimate UFC fans, we kind of need Dustin Poirier to win at UFC 264. So he's the rightful owner of a title shot against.
Best man wins every time. We don't need anything from anyone.
Whoever
right. shows up the best that night is going to be the guy, and they're going to get the title shot, and it's history from there. And that fight with Nate Diaz is always going to be there, and they're always going to want to fight each other, and they have the perfect styles to match up and fight each other. Yeah. So what else?
Fair enough to me. But we're going to cap things off with none other than your favorite segment, and that is the Nene of the Week. And to me, it's a fairly obvious guy to give this to. It's a guy that, he finally gets to the pinnacle of the sport, and he doesn't even get 3 months to get a fight made. So he gets passed up. He doesn't get a first title defense. Instead, they just want to make a fight 1 month earlier. and just not essentially not worry about this guy. But the guy that is going to win the Nene of the Week award is Francis Ngannou, because this is just such a weird spot to be in, almost unprecedented in terms of how quick this guy rolled around. He's not happy. His management isn't happy. His whole team isn't happy. So, man, he really... Dana, like you said, Blake, you try to play hardball with Dana. Dana is one of the greatest kings of the Nene in all of sports. So, man, you mess with the bull, you get the Nene.
There you go.
I know you like that. I know you like that.
I'll tolerate it.
I'll take it. That works for me. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to UFC Talk. Let's give it up for the Big 5-0, Blake. Woo! We reached 50.
Yeah.
Think about being fancy and wearing a suit, but it's 103 degrees here. So, no.
In Idaho?
Yeah, we got a hot week.
Yeah.
We get one
That's
week
crazy.
a year where it gets into the hundreds.
That's wild. Praying for you, bro.
It's better than the month that you guys get in NorCal, okay?
It's like 3 or 4 months, I would say. It's ridiculous. It was, I think, like 95 today, and that's like kind of cooler. It had a nice little breeze going.
That's so tough. Yeah, I really do have to feel bad for you on that one. But before we sign off, just got to give a quick shout out and thank you to the people that are attempting to try to have us have enough money to be able to pay Blake some kind of a little bit of a paycheck. That is our Patreon supporters, and that is the first off for all your card collecting needs. Go on over to Instagram and follow at the Big Bat Box. Shout out to Ray Rodriguez with that, and shout out to Ryan Watson and Neil Wiley. We love you guys so much. But Blake, your thoughts on UFC Vegas 30 in one word or phrase?
Early. Very early in the morning.
Hey, you don't like your UFC with a little brunch? Maybe a little UFC mimosa?
You just asked for one word or a phrase.
Yeah, but now we're moving on,
hard.
Blake. We're moving on. I'm asking a follow-up question.
Early can mean a ton of different things, and it definitely doesn't have to be negative. It was just early.
Hey, shoot. All right, fair enough with me. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you find something to do on your Saturday this weekend, as we have that bye week before we get to the huge UFC 264. So maybe I'll just try to be watching some Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier highlights the whole time. But I know, Blake, this week is probably going to take forever to get to that card, huh? Just because your boy Sugar Sean's on it, making his return again.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Can't wait. I mean, luckily I get a little bit of time off from work to enjoy this 4th of July weekend. So
oh yeah,
this week is kind of the hard part, and then once it gets to next week, I'm good.
Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for enjoying. Please go out through the rest of this week, enjoy your week, and have a great weekend, and enjoy the hell out of the best... Oh man, I kind of got mixed up on the words there. Let's restart this. Enjoy the birthday party of the greatest country in the world. That is the United States. God bless you all. Have a great day and rest of your week. And for all you NFL fans, you know this name. Maybe the UFC fans not as much, but don't pull a Jason Pierre-Paul. Be safe, please. Please.